think it's about that time to start the wiring harness process. So what I'm thinking about doing now is removing the dash. These flimsy plastics. They're half broke anyway. And, maybe I have enough access to do the wiring if I remove all this stuff. I'm not sure. If not, I'll just remove it. Looks like it just has a couple bolts on the top, but there are some wires there that I want to take a look at and remove what's not supposed to be there. I see some like speaker wires and stuff, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with that and then get the wiring harness laid out, which I already have. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the camera down and start removing these flimsy panels. Okay, so I finally have those pesky knobs out and I have the wires exposed. Took the glove box, it's just a piece of cardboard out, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and remove the dash. I should have some bolts here and one on the bottom on each side, and then I have the speaker that I'm gonna remove to be able to get this out. And this is gonna make it a little easier to get to things, clean up in there a little bit. And as far as the front of the dash, I would like to paint it probably outside the car also, so I don't get any overspray on the car. I'm gonna clean up the front and see how the paint is. If I don't have any rust in it, then I'm gonna leave it, because it's only original once and it doesn't look too bad. But if I see anything that I don't like, then I'll go ahead and scrub it down, sand it, and paint it once I find the correct paint color for it. So let's go ahead and remove the rest of the dash. I got the dash out finally. I cleaned up the dash a little bit, or some of the trash that was in there. I am going to paint over the rust with the rust encapsulator that I had for the other parts of the car. Now I can easily work on the wiring harness without having to worry about sticking my hand through little crevices and stuff. So it's coming along. I'll show you the dash. Here's the dash. And I am going to paint over it because it just looks a little bit old, and then in the bottom there's some light rust that I don't want there anymore. I don't have the paint yet. I want to go with the OEM paint. I don't want to paint it just black. As you can see, it's kind of like a metallic black grayish color. And in the back, I am going to put the rust encapsulator. It doesn't really matter for the back. I just want some of this surface rust to be gone so it won't come back. So right now, I'm gonna clean the back. I'm gonna scuff it up with the wire brush as best as I can, and then just spray it with that rust encapsulator, and then move on to the inside of the car. So I'll go ahead and do that and then show you what that looks like here in a little bit. Here it is after it's been cleaned and prepped a little bit. The rust encapsulator doesn't really require all the rust to be removed. They can go over the rust surfaces as stated in the can. You can use a wire brush, and that's what I did. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and spray it. You don't need a primer or anything, but first I'm gonna go ahead and move it so I don't get it on the paint of the car or on my truck. So I'll move the stand, get the paint, and spray it, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a little bit. So here it is after I finished spraying it. Came out smooth. Really happy with the way it turned out. And you're never going to see it, so it doesn't really matter if it's factory or not. but I like the way it looks. Plus, I know that it's protected now and it's not gonna rust. So I'm just waiting for it to dry a little bit. It's dry to the touch. This stuff dries pretty fast. And then I'll paint the front once I get the paint. But for now, the back is nice and clean. Here's a little closer look of the wiring, the old wiring harness. This here is the light switch to dim it, make it brighter, and then the little knob pulls out. And then this little knob here you push to get that shaft out so you can unscrew the trim off of it. So these old cars had more wiring than I thought, but it's still not as bad as the newer ones. Here's some of the connections that go behind the door. Don't know where it goes yet, but I'll find out. And the fuse box is right here. The new one, I'm gonna try to put it back in the same place. Let me show you what I got. Here's the new wiring harness that I got. It's a lot of wires. It's kwik wire. And I didn't go with the traditional kits that they sell. This one had really good reviews and it was not cheap. I don't remember how many circuits it was. I believe it was like 22. Yeah, it's a 22 circuit. I figured I'll wire it for the future in case I wanted to put power windows and all that other fancy stuff. And what I liked about this kit, you know, like all of them, they all have writings on the wires, but these are a little bit heavier gauge than most, and that's what I really liked about it. The other ones are a little bit thinner, and you know, I feel like this is just a little bit better quality. The fuse box is a little bit big, but another thing that I liked was the kill switch that it has. So, you know, when you go to the store or you drive it around, you can just shut it off, and unless somebody knows that it has a kill switch, they'll never be able to steal it. And that's what I really liked about it. So it's pretty heavy duty. It came with all these connections, and then I bought these, and I don't think I'm gonna need them. Here's the dimmer switch and stuff. I'll probably go with the factory stuff. So if I wouldn't have gotten this, it would have been a little bit cheaper. And then I have my crimper and wire tools to make it a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and take the spaghetti out, and then we can kind of fish through the new wires and kind of get them placed where I want them, and then go from there. I got that sucker out. It really wasn't that bad. It's just it's kind of old, so you know, some of the connections just take forever to get out. But here's my clutter of wires. Now I have to get them out through the firewall. So next I'm gonna go to the engine side and see what I can do to fish them out. So I got the wiring through the firewall, and now I'm just disconnecting the connectors that go into the engine, and just trying to get everything out. Got the horn and all that stuff out. It looks like it goes through the bottom of the engine to the other side, and I bet that's where all the other wires for the other side are at. So I'll keep at it and get it all disconnected so I can lay it out and see what goes where for the new wiring harness to go in. It's a good thing I'm replacing the wires, because this is pretty much falling apart, and could have caused a fire It's going down to the starter, I believe, but yeah, it's about that time to get all this replaced. Here's a nice look at the after I painted the rust. You know, of course I sanded it and wire brushed the sections that I could reach, but it turned out well. Now I'm gonna get the wiring harness in there and see if I can run it. At least put it in the spots that it needs to stay on for now, and then I'll work from there. So I'm gonna run the front of the car and then run, you know, the headlights, blinkers, that kind of stuff. Maybe have it hanging out so I'll know where it goes, figure out the grounds, do the same thing for the dash, and then I feel like the back's gonna be a lot easier. There's not much going on back there. But the way the wiring harness for this car was, it's in 3 sections. So you have, there's your connections there for the back. You have that wiring harness. Then you have one for the fuse box and stuff that go to the engine bay, and it provides the wiring for the headlights, the switch, and it connects to a third wiring harness that goes to the engine, and that, you know, controls all the engine stuff. So the new one just comes in one section. So one section for everything, and I'm assuming that's the way the new cars are. I'm not sure. Then we're taking the new car apart. So I'm gonna try to be as neat as possible, not have wires everywhere so I don't get overwhelmed. So let's go ahead and put it in here and just kind of mock it up and see what I need to do next. Pretty happy with the location of the fuse box. I did have it on this other side where the original one was at, but since this is so big, I was scared that it was going to interfere with some of the stuff that was here. If you remember, there was a switch for the wipers and then a switch for the lighter, the cigarette lighter, and those have a little box, so they were going to interfere because it stuck out to about right here. So I decided to move it on this side. I found this bracket that already had some holes in it, so it worked out pretty good. I just re-drilled the holes. I kind of attached it to the column. It has some of these long bolts on the other side, and I just kind of slipped it in, and it's pretty sturdy. It's not going anywhere. And kind of hides a kill switch. So now I can go ahead and start routing the wires where they go. This took longer than I thought and longer than I wanted to spend on it. But I just wasn't happy with the location. I played around with a different location to see if it worked better, and it just wasn't working out. So I found that bracket and I just decided to go ahead and do it. Hopefully there's no interference with anything. Knowing my luck, I probably will have to move it or something later on. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and route the wires and see how it goes. So just to be sure, I decided to put the dash in, and it looks pretty good. I like the way it looks. It looks kind of factory, and that's kind of what I want to go for. It may be a little tight, but the good thing about the bracket is that, you know, it does have holes, so I can just move it over that way. And if I move it over one, I think it'll give me enough clearance. But either way, I am going to leave it there and then figure it out later if I need to. And this is the section that I was telling you about. So the fuse box came out all the way over there, and I think I would have, from what I can see, I would have had enough clearance and stuff, but I'd rather have it here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this back out and put the wires through the firewall and all that good stuff and see what I have to do next.